You wake up screaming about drowning, but you've never been near deep water in your life. A 5-year-old starts speaking fluent French with a 19th century accent. Her parents don't speak a word of it. A man touches an old violin for the first time and plays a complex Mozart piece perfectly, his fingers moving like they've done this for centuries. These aren't plot twists from a thriller. They're real cases documented by researchers who can't explain them. What if the skills you picked up naturally, the places that feel like home when you've never been there, the random terrors that make no logical sense, what if they're not yours at all? What if you're just remembering? Dr. Ian Stevenson spent 40 years tracking down children who remembered dying violently in past lives. And here's the creepy part. They had birthmarks exactly where the fatal wounds would have been. Bullet holes, stab wounds, burn marks. A 3-year-old boy in Sri Lanka had a cluster of birthmarks on his chest, then started talking about being shot by his brother-in-law during a family argument. Stevenson investigated, found the case. The man had actually been murdered exactly as the child described, with wounds matching the birthmarks perfectly. The killer, still alive, still walking around, until this toddler identified him. A woman has nightmares about burning alive every single night, sweats through her sheets, smells smoke that isn't there, wakes up clawing at her skin. Then she visits Salem, Massachusetts for the first time and has a complete breakdown at a specific street corner where accused witches were executed in 1692. She'd never studied the witch trials, never knew where the executions happened, but her body knew. Here's where it gets even stranger. You know those child prodigies who play piano at age 4 like they've been practicing for decades? Mozart composing symphonies at 5? Artists who can paint photorealistic portraits before they can write their own names? What if they're not prodigies at all? What if they're just remembering their last career? A 6-year-old girl in India walked up to a sitar and played a rare classical raga that takes masters 20 years to learn. When asked how she knew it, she said, "I played this before I died." She described her previous life as a musician in a specific village, gave the name of her old teacher, even hummed his favorite composition. They found him, 92 years old. Everything she said was true, and she knew songs he'd never recorded, never taught anyone, songs he'd only played alone in his room. But it's not just talents that bleed through. It's obsessions, addictions, wounds that won't heal. A man becomes violently ill every time he wears anything around his neck. No medical reason, no trauma in this life. Under hypnotic regression, he remembers being hanged as a thief in medieval England, the rope burning into his throat as he choked to death. The phobia vanished the moment he remembered. A woman is terrified of German shepherds specifically, not other dogs, just that breed. During therapy, she recalls being attacked and killed by military dogs while trying to escape a concentration camp. She was 8 years old in that life, 8 years old when she died, and the fear followed her here. Then there are the people who meet strangers and instantly know them, know their habits, their secrets, the exact way they laugh. Soulmates aren't always romantic. Sometimes they're your mother from 3 lifetimes ago. Sometimes they're the soldier who died next to you in a trench. Sometimes they're the person who murdered you. And you feel it the second you lock eyes. A therapist documented a case where 2 women met at a coffee shop and both burst into tears without knowing why. Under regression, they discovered they'd been sisters in 1940s Poland, separated at Auschwitz, each believing the other had died. They'd been searching for each other for 80 years across 2 different bodies. You know that weird skill you have that nobody taught you? That fear of something you've never experienced? That instant connection with a stranger you just met? That place you visited once and felt like you were coming home? Maybe you learned it before. Maybe you died from it before. Maybe you loved them before. Maybe you never left that place. It's been waiting for you this whole time. Your past lives aren't haunting you. They're leaking into you, drop by drop, memory by memory. The nightmare that won't stop. The language you shouldn't know. The song you've never heard but somehow remember every word to. And the scariest part? You might be living out unfinished business from a death you don't even remember. That fear you can't shake. You might be trying to avoid dying the same way twice. That person you just met who feels impossibly familiar, you might owe them something, or they might owe you. That talent that came out of nowhere, you spent lifetimes perfecting it. You're not starting from zero. You never were. You're just continuing where you left off, whether you know it or not.